From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Ain't nobody take me away from these millions. Everybody gonna die before I go.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, would a truly elite coach find himself in the position Florida State is currently in? Stay or go? Is the ACC back on the table for Florida State? And we're generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy, vitaminenergy.com. Promo code Corey Clark, please.
It's Warchant BOGO.
That's right. Buy one, get one free. Warchant BOGO. 12 bottles in a package. Use that promo code, pay for 12 and actually get 24. You could also buy like 12 boxes and then you'll get 24 boxes, which is going to be 288 bottles? If my math doesn't mistake me, 12 times 12 is 144. Double that.
Nope, there you go, 288. Good job, Aslan.
Pinellas County Schools, let's go.
Yep.
Get the Immune Plus blue raspberry flavor. Extra strength. We need that to power through the days ahead in this long, arduous season of ours. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com, Ultimate Seminoles Sports Source. Won't you hit the thumbs up, everybody, please? Certainly. Subscribe if you'd care to. FSU 1. That'll get you 2 months of access for $1 American. Maybe they'll be coming off like a big-time dub over Notre Dame towards the end of your subscription. You'll be like, can't leave now. Noles got this thing turned around. So, don't be a fan later. Corey Clark, always been a fan of you. How are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. How are you doing? You doing all right?
Yeah, I'm well.
Did your girlfriend watch the live show on Wednesday?
She did not, but I sent her a screenshot of the person whose name escapes me that sent me $20 for being an adult and having a girlfriend finally after 5 years.
And I told you Stephanie was going to be be
She was. I sent a screenshot of that too to the lady.
Okay, good, because I told her she had to calm it down. I was like, man, Aslan's her first trip to Tallahassee to hang. He might not want to be like, hey, come meet mom and dad. They might just want to do their own thing in Tallahassee. She's like, I know. I'll step back.
It's not mom and dad. It's cousin. It's cousin Corey and his wife.
Right. Yeah. I feel aunt and uncle at least.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah. We got lots to get to. Renegade Express mailbag. So we shouldn't waste any time. But before we get to that, Corey, I guess I like what we did last week. I'll spit out some of these props for our over-under contest, which is open to everybody out there, not just warchant.com subscribers, but also anybody who listens to the pod, anybody who listens to or reads anything from warchant.com, our over-under contest. So we'll start at the bottom first. I think with a tiebreaker, unless you have something more interesting, I think I'm going to just go with Florida State rushing yards.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I mean, that's something I think we're all going to be keeping our eye on that one, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Let's hope it gets to triple digits.
I hope so too. Okay, so I'll start us off with. I'm going to go with. I should have the stats in front of me before I throw this number out. What about a first down number for Florida State? Is that worth talking about or no?
Sure. Yeah.
What do you think? What would be a good number to set for over under for a 60-minute football game for the Noles? I'll pull up the Memphis game here to give us.
I would say like 14.5, 13.5 or 14.5. They can't be averaging more than like 15 a game at most.
They had 11 against Memphis.
Yeah, so let's go 13.5.
13.5 over under on first downs.
Because 3 first downs and a half doesn't seem like you're going to do that. Even as bad as this offense is, you got to feel like they're not going to do that again. You would hope.
Hakeem Williams, you want to do like receiving yards or receptions on Hakeem? Second game back, maybe a little bit more loose.
Okay, sure.
Okay, what's a number you like on that one, Corey?
For Hakeem Williams, I'm going to say I'll set it at 3.5.
Okay, 3.5 receptions for.
He had 2 last week. Okay. He had a good week of practice, from what I could tell. So just I'm giving you guys a little inside knowledge. So yeah, I'll set it at 3.5.
Okay. Well, let's get to the Brock Glenn part of the show. Brock Glenn snaps.
How about I came up with something a little different, Aslan.
Okay.
How about, and I want to make this very clear, we're not giving away secrets because I didn't see this happen once in the practice that I watched. But how about how many non-DJU snaps taken at quarterback?
Okay.
Mike Norvell was asked on Monday about Wildcat. I feel like the last successful play they had as an offense was Lawrence Toafili in the Wildcat back in Charlotte. So I'm going to say non-DJU snaps. I'm going to set the over-under at 19.5.
Oh, wow. That's a huge number.
Well, if he gets replaced, it's a small number, right?
I guess so, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, what if Brock Glenn plays a couple series, but then there's some Wildcat stuff, or Brock Glenn plays 3 series, it doesn't look any better, they go back to DJ. So I'm setting it at 19.5.
You want to put a team total on the Noles?
For what, points?
Yeah.
I mean, 11, 6. Who knows, man? Yeah, I'll say. How about over under 20.5?
Oh wow, my guy. Still big believer over here. Okay.
Yeah. Can you imagine in this day and age, a college football team scoring over 20 points?
And then defensively, I don't know. It's trying to think. We wanted like an individual player or something that's like Cal related. Yeah, how about Jaden Ott? Because
rushing yards?
Yeah, Jaden Ott rushing yards.
All right, if you guys aren't familiar, and you probably aren't, you guys haven't been clocking Cal football for a while. They have a really good running back. He ran for 1,300 yards last year. As a freshman, he ran for 900. He was a preseason All-American this year. He got hurt. He's had an ankle injury. I think he had 10 carries for 11 yards against Auburn, was hurt. Didn't play last week, but he's probable for this week. Yeah. So Jaden Ott rushing yards, how about like
34.5?
I was going to say like
number?
60.5.
Ooh, okay. We'll split the difference.
I was going to say 60.5. Yeah, he's averaging. I think he averages when he plays. He averages like 90 yards a game rushing. Okay. But he's also coming off an ankle injury. Theoretically, he should be facing the toughest defense they've faced this season. So you would hope he's not going to come in after barely playing this year and run for over 100 yards. So I'm going to set it at 60.5.
60.5. All right, that's the numbers. All right, those are your over-unders, everybody. First downs for Florida State, 13.5. Hakeem Williams receptions, 3.5.
Let's bump that up. Can we bump that up to 15.5?
I can see about that and go about doing that.
Yeah, let's bump it up to 15.5 for the first downs. 13.5 is just too low. Everybody's going to be hammering the over.
Florida State snaps at quarterback. That's not DJ Uiagalelei, 19.5. Team total on the Noles, 20.5. Jaden Ott, running back for Cal, rush yards, 60.5. Tiebreaker, Florida State rushing yards as a team. Yes, we will factor in yards lost to sacks because that's how they do it in the college game. Be sure to put N/M in the tiebreaker field. If you're not a member, that way we can identify you folks and get you involved in the contest. That said, we got that out of the way. Let's continue on our journey. Let's get on ponies. Let's do the Renegade Express, Corey. C_Swizzle8. Wake up, gentlemen. If you had to choose 2 players that were drafted off of last year's team, not including Jordan Travis, Johnny Wilson, or Keon Coleman, and put them on this year's team, who would you choose that would have this team 3-0? C. Swizzle says his picks would be Tatum and Trey Benson.
So you get to pick 2?
Yes.
Yeah. If you're not putting Jordan back there, I don't think there's 2 that would have you 3-0. I would say Verse, and then
what about Dimitri Emmanuel and Casey Roddick? Run it back.
Yeah, no. Verse and Fisk can take your chances. If you're not going to include those 3 offensive players, having Trey Benson would be nice, but what would it look like?
Yeah, I don't.
It's still this offensive line. I don't know how much difference even a good running back makes if it's in this that we're seeing right now. So I would say just hammer the defense and hope you can, maybe beat Georgia Tech 21-13 or something.
Also, I did not follow the assignment properly. Neither Emmanuel nor Roddick were drafted, so they would not be eligible in this exercise. Yeah, I guess, right? Just having a crazy dominating defense with Fisk and Verse.
Yep.
Although maybe, linebacker, though. Tatum.
Yeah,
Tatum
how about
helps.
Fisk and Deloach? Or
Deloach
Verse
didn't
and
get drafted,
Deloach.
yeah. No,
Oh,
Verse
that's
and
right,
Bethune,
Yeah, no, I think Verse and Fisk, all of a sudden your linebackers look better.
Okay. Fair.
I'll still go with the 2 best players on the team.
Yeah, that's the way I've always operated, so I should continue to do so. Grumpy BK, wake up, fellas. Wake up. Florida State football, please. Obviously, many of us are thinking ahead to next year at this point. There are real concerns about the upcoming recruiting class. Is it inevitable that we will have to have a coaching staff shake up to salvage it? What else will drive a real surge or reverse this trend? The only other things I can think of are paying more than everyone else or hitting the backup quarterback lottery with Brock or Luke for the remainder of the season, but neither of those seems likely.
So is the question what can help this year or what can help moving forward like into next year?
I guess just this upcoming recruiting class. To salvage this one, I guess we're just going to worry about the here and now class 2025, Tribe 25.
I would think it would help if one of these young guys played well. That would make you more appealing. If the offense started moving the ball and scoring points again, I think that makes you more appealing to high school players. So that, I guess maybe hoping that because a coaching shakeup isn't going to help your recruiting staff. Not in the short term anyway, not in the immediate short term. So I would say, I would say one of these, Brock Glenn going out and being really good. I think that could have and being only a redshirt freshman, I think that could have a positive impact on the recruiting class.
Yeah, it feels like unless that coach has some really deep relationship with a player at his current school that he's committed to. And then
you mean the guy that replaces whoever you let go?
Yeah, like if you had Brian Hartline last year and Jeremiah Smith is in love with Brian Hartline, I could see that. But otherwise, is it really relationship driven or is it financially driven, the decision of these kids? So
right.
I don't know how much, and listen, I'm not saying stand pat. Core's not saying stand pat. But in terms of this exercise, I don't know how much assistant coaches changing around helps the class. Couldn't hurt though, right, Corey? Couldn't hurt, I don't think.
Well, I just think you're not going to make any changes until after Thanksgiving, and then the signing day is like a week and a half later, I feel like, or 2 weeks later. So it's going to be hard to there's going to be a lot of turmoil if you're firing assistant coaches, and then you'd have to bring in somebody really quick, and they have 5 days to make up time and try to develop a relationship with the kid if they haven't been recruiting them. Or maybe you go and get somebody from a school that has a really good offensive line class coming in and get them to convince all those guys to come with them.
Bradley Moss, wake up. Mike Norvell's starting to write his name in the FSU record books, and not in a good way. Do you think if we had any other, quote, elite coach, Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, etc., they would have let this collapse happen? Also, is DJ the slowest player on the team? Lastly, most importantly, I love you guys, and I'm confident. Go Noles.
Thanks, Bradley. That's nice. Yeah. He's faster than some offensive linemen, right?
Yeah.
He's. Let's say this: he's the slowest player that they have that touches the football, but he's not the slowest player on the team. And that includes the kickers. I think Mastromanno and Fitzgerald are faster than him as well.
How about
Mastromanno's a pretty good athlete, I think.
Yeah, no, Mastromanno is. Is he the slowest player on the team with a single digit?
He's got to be, right? Who's even in the conversation?
Farmer.
Omar Graham. Love you, Omar Graham.
Could he beat Farmer in a foot race? I think Daryl Jackson might be able to catch him.
Apparently Daryl Jackson runs 31 miles an hour, so he can't beat him. I think he's faster than Farmer. I think if Farmer's trying to get him, he can't track him down. So there you go. Okay. He's not the slowest person wearing a single digit. And as far as it's a fair question. I would say there's no chance that Kirby Smart or Nick Saban would follow up a 13-0 season with this. But you also have to – context does matter. I'm not trying to couch it here. But, Florida State right now in its current construct isn't on the same level as Alabama and Georgia. And, Norvell's not as good a coach as Saban and Kirby Smart. There's no shame in that, right? You could argue they're two of the best. When you win the argument, they're two of the best that have ever done it. What Kirby's done at Georgia is insane, and obviously we know what Nick Saban did. So, I think it's fair to say that would an elite coach have a collapse like this after a 13-0 season? That's fair. I do think that, that 13-0 season came from a confluence of events, really getting kind of lucky with your quarterback, the being ahead of the game in the portal, the NIL space, having those guys all come back for a year. But yes, he has not established himself as a great developer of his own players yet. Nick Saban and Kirby Smart live off that. That is what they do. They evaluate in high school. They recruit at a high level, whatever that even means in 2024, and they develop guys. Mike Norvell has not done those yet. He has not proven he is at that level yet. I think he's a good football coach, but yeah, he hasn't proved he can sustain a program anywhere close to what those two other guys that I don't even know if he mentioned Saban and Smart. I just brought them up.
No, he
myself,
did. He did.
Okay.
That's the tricky thing because you had to pay him elite money because you didn't want to lose him. And I don't know if that was like leaving the door open for this kind of conversation. But, yeah, there's no way Saban or Kirby does. I mean, just to add more context to it, last year was disgusting for Clemson. Like an absolute gong show of embarrassment. They went 9-4. Lincoln Riley was dragged all off season. I mean, listen, he had the number 1 overall pick, reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and they were a joke last year. They went 8-5. Ryan Day is his seat warm, is his seat hot, has gone 13-1, 7-1 COVID, 11-2, 11-2, 11-2. Jim Harbaugh.
He's not really. Is that just because he's losing to Michigan?
Yeah.
Like that's why his seat is warm? I mean, his seat's not really warm. Realistically,
Harbaugh, his worst season at Michigan, if you don't count COVID, was an 8-5 season. Like, I think all those guys, and I hate calling Dabo elite, but man,
But I guess I would ask, if you plopped Norvell into Columbus, Ohio, like 7 years ago, do you think they fall off a cliff? Like, there's some stuff in place resource-wise and, finances-wise, recruiting, however you want to frame it. And also, he would have been taking over a program that wasn't in complete disarray. I don't know that if you put Norvell in Athens in 2019 that, I'm not going to sit here and say that he's Kirby Smart and he wins 2 national championships, but I don't think they would be 0-3 in 2024. Does that make sense? Like, I think
But my thing, though, is like
context matters, but yeah, he's had 5 years. This is year 5. It's not year 1.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. It's year 5, and it looks like this.
My issue is, in 22, at the end of that season, you should have been like, man, this Jordan Travis kid is really good. We're going to throw everything we can at him to make him come back for 1 more year. But, man, we need to get a succession plan in place immediately because he's either going to show up for 23 and then we can groom a guy behind him, or he's not going to be here and we need to have a plan. So you kind of missed that part of it. And then, listen, you had all this great talent in 23. Your whole motto was like going for it all in 2023. Like, you knew what you were going to be working with in 20. Like, you were going to have to do a massive reload. And you went about doing it through the transfer portal and getting all these pieces, and you seemingly have not hit on enough of them to guys, I guess, put it mildly. But I get it, man. Like, you lost a lot of talent. It's hard to replace that. But, all these other schools.
Well, it's hard to replace that when you haven't recruited at an elite level.
Yeah.
If you
but
started
there's also
recruiting
the portal, though, man. Like, there's enough pieces out there that they would have gotten. Listen, I'll disagree. Ira and I will continually disagree on what Lane Kiffin inherited versus what Mike inherited. He's like, Aslan, you're totally wrong about that. I'm not going to say he's totally wrong about it, but you might have been able to get Cam Ward. But Ira lays out a really good point about the timing and the enrollment at Miami and him putting his name in the draft and all those sort of things. But, like, what if you do overextend yourself to get a Cam Ward? Like, you could have done that, but to Ira's point, it doesn't matter what figure Florida State throws out there. Miami would have beat it by $1. I don't know, man. Maybe they wouldn't have. I
don't agree with that. The reason I don't agree with that is, like, if you're Cam Ward, and I'm talking about Cam Ward sitting there in December of 2023, saying, who do I want to go to? Both of these teams are offering me, let's say, 100 boxes of donuts. They're both, or Florida State's offering me 100 boxes. Miami's offering me 102 boxes. Is those extra 2 boxes going to be worth going to Miami? If I believe that Florida State is the team that's going to be in the playoffs and has the elite talent and is going to make me an NFL prospect and maybe a Heisman candidate because they're a really good program and Miami keeps losing 6 and 7 games a year. Like, I feel like if you get it close, and I'm talking about timing notwithstanding. I don't agree with the whole Miami was going to pay more and that was going to be a difference because, yeah, man, I'm sure Florida State has probably landed some kids that were offered more money at other places, but wanted to go play at Florida State because it's Florida State.
Yeah, Braden Fisk
man,
was, you know.
You want to go play with good players and for good coaches, and you want to go win games. That was not at all a certainty going to Miami in January of 2024. It seemed much more certainty to go to Florida State and win games and maybe make the playoff. Now, it's turned out that Cam Ward has shifted the whole conversation and shifted the conference. But the timing is the better. I think the timing is correct. But yes, the point being, when I was talking about the timing is the better point, I should say. Like, it was just tough for Florida State because the school started quicker, and they had to know. They had to have an answer, and Cam wasn't giving them an answer. It's not like they said, no, we don't want you. It's just Cam wouldn't commit, and he said he was going to the NFL, so you had to go to your backup plan. But when it comes to Norvell and the recruiting, 2020 and 2021, obviously it was hard for him to recruit at a high level. But once they started winning games, I just feel like the roster should be better than this. They've been winning. They won a lot in 2022, and they won a lot in 2023. And so far, those two recruiting classes haven't really resulted in anything special on the field as of yet. Young kids, very young kids. There's still time, and I believe in all y'all. But right now, that's the difference, I think, with when I keep bringing up year 5. It is not year 2. It is not year 1. It is year 5, and you won 19 straight games. I feel like the roster should be in better shape than this, than it currently is, and that's where you wonder. That's where you rightly question, okay, we know he can coach. We know he can win when he has good players. Well, the whole name of the game is getting good players. And can he do that on a consistent basis, or is it always going to be like every couple of years there's going to be a perfect storm and a confluence of a lot of different things that give you this roster that can go compete for a playoff, or can you stack them up and stack up really good recruiting classes and good portal classes and keep them here and challenge every year for a playoff spot? Because, you know, they're really making records, man. They're going preseason top 10 to, they'd be the first team to start 0-4 after being preseason top 10 in 40 years. And so they're making a lot of bad history. So it's fair to question everything at this point because it's been such a bad start.
Yeah, that 23 class, and this is totally revisionist history looking back at it, but that's the real bummer because you ranked 22nd in the nation after you won 6 games in a row. And Utah, TCU, South Carolina, these kind of schools, Florida and Miami, your rivals had higher ranked classes than you. But that really hasn't paid off for the Gators either. So, jokes. But then
you did bring in
all those transfers for 23.
Jaheim Bell, Braden Fisk. You hit some home run with Keon Coleman. You hit it out of the park in the portal more than you did in the recruiting class. And the problem with that, and I don't think it's a problem. I think you can sustain things in the portal to a certain extent. You just got to be better than they were this past year. They're here for a year. You got Keon for a year. They're rentals. Braden Fisk was here for a year. Verse, you got 2 out of. Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, you got 2 out of. So get back to getting the 2-year rentals.
Wadata _80. Wake up, gentlemen. I will caveat this by stating I am often wrong.
Well, okay, that's good.
You too can have a podcast, by the way. I believe the team makes a turn for the better this week. I think either Brock starts or DJ has a super short leash. The team needs a spark and just needs to get a win. Winning is contagious, as they say. As bad as the team has been, if we just catch the ball and hit wide open receivers, we were 2-1, probably 3-0. That said, looking back on it, if we could have kept Tate or just rolled with Brock and Luke and spent DJ's NIL money on another position, what would you have chosen? I'd say it looks like right now the need is offensive line, but who would have predicted that? Spend his money on 2 linebackers. Would that have been the route to take? I suppose, asked another way, would this team be 3-0 with Tate, Brock, and Luke and 2 competent linebackers? Good question. Dare I say a question, Corey, that's probably going to be generating discussion sparked by Cummins. Hit that friggin' generator, kids. Fire up the cameras. Yeah, there we go. It's time to generate discussion. This is sparked by Cummins. Cummins Lifestyle. It's all one word. Follow them on Instagram. Check out all the great things they're doing with their own line of products. They'll be crisscrossing the country. They'll be making a stop in South Bend, Indiana on November 9th. That's when the Noles will be taking on Notre Dame. Hope to see you at the tailgate. I think I'll be out there, actually. There's a little kerfuffle. Maybe I wouldn't be in Chicago, or rather Notre Dame. We've got that all settled. Let's get this one settled, Corey. I like it. This is, it's like the the old riddle as a kid when it's like you got the wolf, the chicken, and the bag of seeds, and you've got one canoe. And how can you bring them back and forth without the wolf killing the chicken
Right.
or eating the seeds? Like, you've got resources here. What do you think? Do you think a Tate Rodemaker-led Florida State offense right now with – listen, Teddy Buchanan's a guy that we're going to see up close on Saturday. He's from California. He went to Cal Davis. He's now at Cal Berkeley, and he's looked really good through 3 games, and he's a really good linebacker. But what do you think if Florida State had, let's say, linebackers that were just a click off what Tatum and Kalen were, and you got Tate? Do you think Florida State's 1-2, 2-1, 3-0, or what would you spend on DJ's NIL money? Let's say it was $500,000. You think if you had a quarterback that you were like, good enough?
I understand the question. I understand the suggestion because the linebacker play has not been good. My only pushback there is the reason they're 0-3 is not because of the defense. The defense hasn't helped, but the defense, I would dare say, has been average through 3 games.
Yeah.
And a little above average, honestly, against Memphis. They scored 20 points. Yeah. The offense is what has to change. And so if you're riding with Tate or you're riding with Brock, I would spend it on a legitimate all-ACC future NFL draft pick wide receiver. Okay. Because the thought being, and I understand the thought about the offensive line too, like go get a really good offensive lineman or two. I'm just not convinced that this scheme with this offensive line, I don't know, system in place, it wouldn't matter. I just think there's some fundamental things wrong with the way this, at least in the last year and a half, the way this system utilizes the offensive lineman. There's not a lot of just go push your guy out of the way, hat on a hat. There's a lot of dudes that just run free. There's a lot of just communication breakdowns, and you could go get the best guard in the country. That would help, but I don't know that it matters if the tackle next to him just lets a guy run down the line and makes a tackle behind the line of scrimmage. So I say give yourself a fighting chance with with an All-American type, all-conference type wide receiver. Okay. That's what I would spend it on to go along with Malik Benson and other guys. Because I get the question with the linebackers. The linebacker play has not been good. You wonder where that's going in the future. But this season has come off the rails largely because the offense has been completely impotent.
Fair. For what it's worth, the transfer portal database on On3 had DJ ranked the 68th prospect on the entire portal with an NIL value of $330,000. Most of these players don't have any values next to their names, but I mean, the upper end guys, Caden Proctor's a guy from Alabama that went back home to Iowa, but then came back to Alabama. They have him listed at $689,000. Zalance Hurd went from LSU to Tennessee. I think he's locked down one of their spots. He's 535 is the number he's listed at. There's a young man, golly, his name escapes. I had it on my screen there a second ago. Caden Green. I think he was the top guard in the portal. He went from Oklahoma to Missouri, and he's graded out like at 70. And he started all 3 games for Missouri. No value listed on him. But I mean, I guess there were guys out there, but Marvin Jones Jr. is at the top, near the top of this list, top 20 guy, listed at $253,000. So, I mean, resources are limited. And you went after Richie Leonard. Richie Leonard started a bunch of games for not a great Florida team, but was a pretty good piece that you thought would, be in the mix for a Dimitri Emanuel-esque kind of production. But that's the one thing that's tough to say, man, because you can throw a lot of money at guys, but I don't know if Zalance Hurd from the Bayou of Louisiana wants to come play Florida State. Like, he wants to stay in the SEC. Caden Proctor, I don't think he left Iowa to go just to anywhere. Like, he left Iowa to go to Alabama, played at Alabama last year, and then maybe got cold feet when they got the coaching change, or maybe decided to up his stock and transfer out like a DJ Lundy, perhaps.
Well, it's just like what position can make the most immediate impact and turn a horrible offense into an average offense. I don't know that one offensive lineman, even a great one, is going to be that much of a difference maker. Again, if they had gotten Caden Proctor, I'm not expecting that the Florida State offense would average 120 more rushing yards per game. It just wouldn't. That wouldn't make that big a difference. But if you have a guy that you just feel comfortable throwing it up to, and he goes and makes a couple of ridiculous game-changing plays every game or every other game, maybe he makes a play in the Georgia Tech game that gets you that win. Maybe he makes a play in the Memphis game that gets you a win, that because you trust that he's just going to go make a play. I don't know. Maybe he's running wide open. Maybe he's impossible to cover. I just think that would be, for this particular team, I would much rather prefer to build my offense from the inside out, meaning give me a great offensive line and we can go figure out everything else. But that can't happen with just the money you're taking from DJ. So I would go ahead and say, give me one, maybe just one, but one or two really, really good wide receivers. And they can maybe change the numbers on the scoreboard. That's what we want them to do. And Malik Benson might end up having a really nice year. Let's see if he can build on his game that he had on Saturday against the Tigers.
Evan Stewart, who was at A&M, went to Oregon, wide receiver. 1.3 is what he's listed at. Again, these are
ballparky.
Yes.
There's not official.
Isaiah Bond, he's from Buford, by the way. I didn't realize that.
Yep.
Went from Bama to Texas. He listed at 763 boxes of ZD.
And how are they doing this year? Pretty good, those two receivers?
Yeah, they're not doing bad.
Think they would have made it a bit of an impact on this team?
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Louisville got that kid from South Alabama that caught like 100 balls, Colin Lacey, and he broke his collarbone. So, you could have done that, and then who knows what happens with him. But that's probably the right choice, Corey, because the offensive line, I don't know if you could have gotten like the automatic slam dunk guys that would make you be bulletproof up there at the dollar figure that it probably cost you to get DJ, but you probably could have got two, all conference-ish receivers. But, maybe that's what we would have said about Malik Benson if he went elsewhere, and we're still sitting where we're sitting right now. So you're sitting there and not doing anything else. Just pull out your phone, open up that Instagram app, or go to Instagram.com. Follow Cummins Lifestyle. It's all one word. Shout out Noles, helping Noles. Seminole Life, speaking of portal, wake up, boys. Over under, we lose 3 talented youngsters to the portal after the season. I know Aslan would love this, but why not bring Jimbo in for an off-the-field role?
No.
Yeah, I know. That wouldn't work.
I don't think he would do that. I think that would be very awkward.
I don't think there's a stylistic meshing of these two guys either, just of what they.
And
like
I just don't think it wouldn't really be fair to either coach to do that, to have Jimbo around the program. Although Jimbo is in town, so he could offer his services.
I'd be like Brian Kelly bringing Ed Orgeron back to LSU to like help out with the although that's different because I guess their defense is terrible, and he's not a defensive-minded guy. Brian Kelly's the offensive guy, but. No.
Well, yeah, and also I guess my if you're having Jimbo like evaluate players, I'm all for it. Jimbo is one of the best evaluators / recruiters that we've ever seen. Like legitimately, that college football has ever seen. A&M's classes the last few years were unbelievable.
And all those guys are doing really good elsewhere now.
You saw what he did at Florida State. Yeah. Like he loaded up this roster, maybe not with offensive linemen, but everywhere else he loaded up this roster. The problem with Jimbo is his offense was archaic and it was horrible, and you already got a bad offense. Like Jimbo had one of the worst offenses in the Power 5 the last couple of years, so he's an offensive guy. So strategy-wise, offensive scheme-wise, no thanks. Even quarterback development anymore, no thank you. But recruiting, any position, absolutely. If he wants to come help out, come on, Jimbo. Make it right, Jimbo. Get them a top 5 class again. You have enough money. All would be forgotten if they'd have a Jimbo Fisher day if he gave a year's salary from his buyout from A&M to Florida State's NIL.
Yeah, for sure. This is the tricky thing about talking about losing guys in the portal. Like once they leave, you look at them through a John Desai, as Jeff Cameron would say. It's like, he wasn't that good anyways.
They've been lucky in that, right? They haven't had many that left that you longed for.
We constantly we bring this up like once every 8 months, like once every 6 months. I feel like, and we're like, well, who was like the one guy? And it's like Corey Durden and Cyrus.
Corey Durden's a nice player. Maybe Malik McLean would have been something. I don't know is he still at Penn State?
No, he's at Arizona State now with Kenny.
Oh, all right. Is he doing anything?
I don't think so. Vandravis Jacobs has got 3 catches for 90 yards at South Carolina. Dennis Briggs, I think, is actually doing okay, but your defense is the least of your problems right now if you're Florida State. People are saying Malcolm Ray. People are like, man, we need Malcolm Ray to help out the run defense. I don't know if that's
but to answer your question, that is a fact of life. And we're not going to sit here and say they're not talented. We won't know. I think Absolutely. All these schools like Florida State that have great expectations and are blue bloods and have bad years and kids don't play, they're going to leave. That's just you're going to lose. You're probably going to have, I don't know what the average has been the last couple of years, 10 or 12 or 15 that leave. Out of those, let's say it's 10. There's probably 2 that you'll wince at, 2 or 3 that like, golly, he could have been something. Yeah. And we'll see what they end up being. But, yeah, I would say 3 is about the right number of guys that will leave, and no offense to Josh Burrell. They won't be Josh Burrells. They won't be known. Like, we knew Josh Burrell, at least I did, I thought, was not going to be a productive Division I FBS receiver in the ACC. That became clear from what I saw. But there'll be other guys that are young, like the guys that are freshmen on this team that haven't had a chance to develop or show what they can do, that will leave, and there'll be a pang there. Like, yikes, he could have been something next year. We had plans for him. I'm sure eventually some of these guys that leave will end up they'll hurt you. It'll feel bad. You just got to replace them with better players. You hope. Josh, but yeah, I'd say 3 is a good number, right?
Yeah, I'll take the under. Because for me to say like talented young guys, it would have to be like a Danzy or a Cam Davis level guy, like one of those guys. To me, I think would unanimously everybody be like, damn it, we lost that guy.
And what, like Charles Lester? Who
I
are
don't
the
even
ones
know
that
Charles
were on
Lester, because you'd be like, well, this defense hasn't been great, and he couldn't get on the field, so what's the big loss?
But it ain't like the cornerbacks are the reason the defense hasn't been great. I mean, right. and I don't think he's as good as Quindarius right now, and Quindarius finally got on the field at the end of the Memphis game. So he plays a position where his RA is pretty good. Good luck, Lester. You're not beating out him, and you're not beating out Quindarius right now, and you're probably not beating out Cypress. But the reason I brought Lester up is because he one of the ones that said free the youngins?
Free the youngins, yeah.
He said it on Twitter, or he said it to
both. He said it on Instagram. I think apparently he said it to a cell phone as he was walking up to practice on Wednesday.
Yeah, I don't like that. Yeah. I don't like that. He seems like a really good kid. He was a Nole. He was very excited to be a Nole. I'm not all that. And maybe I'm an old man. And I like the fact that he wants to play. But when you're saying you basically free us, to me it sounds like you think your teammates suck, and if you started playing, things would be different. And it's like, all right, you can want to play, you can beg to play, maybe don't go public and say stuff like that.
Freedom Youngins, you heard?
Yeah, he did. Okay, I just want to make sure. Yeah, him and Elijah Moore both said it. By the way, shout out Joshua Burrell. 2 catches, 43 yards on 5 targets against Ole Miss in Week 1 for the Furman Paladins.
Okay, all right. Has he done anything since?
He has not.
Okay,
but
all right. I wasn't trying to prove a point. I was genuinely curious.
I know. I just want to let people know in case they were wondering about that young man. You're probably wondering what's going on over the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill this weekend. Well, that's the part of the show where we inform you about things. Meet and greet going down 5 p.m. today. I'm even going to show up, but you mainly want to see the toast of the town, and that is Jeff Cameron and Corey Clark. From 5 to 6 o'clock, live meet and greet. No live show, nothing broadcasting, but if you're in Tallahassee for the Cal game, which I think Pillar Ray Pereira is going to be in town, this is an unofficial, this is not a Pillar signing, tomahawk receiving event. I don't know. I think we have to it's almost like a sod game. It needs to be like on the road, or actually, yeah, it needs to be like on the road. And we need to be like a big-time underdog or something. But I digress. Anyhow, live meet and greet, 5 to 6 o'clock, Corner Pocket Bar.
Every road game they play this year is going to be a sod game. They're going to have a lot of opportunities to add to that cemetery.
I know. Get ready.
And Bill's going to have all the football on until 2 a.m. Friday night and Saturday night. Tonight, Friday night, there's an ACC game. You got Stanford and Syracuse, and you also got Nebraska and Illinois.
Ooh.
Top 25 game. And I am absolutely rooting for the Cornhuskers.
Yes, sir.
I want them to be relevant again, man. It's crazy they haven't been to a bowl in 7 or 8 years or whatever it is. That is a great fan base. It's a great program from my childhood, and I hope they're back and feel good about themselves again.
Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Speaking of Illinois, we need to get back on track here, not diverge too far away from things. But I was going to start kicking the tires on some really deep, dark uncovering of stuff when it comes to recruiting quarterbacks because everyone talks about A.J. Duffy and Tate not working out and, Chuba. I'm like, what about the guys we didn't even get? Because this all started with Luke Altmaier. Like, Luke Altmaier was this, sort of rising star in the state of Mississippi that Norvell got on first, in 2020, but then it was hard to, for that kid to commit after that season and then 21 with the way they looked. So he ends up going to Ole Miss, never works out there. They get Jackson Dart. He's at Illinois. And Illinois, they're taking on Nebraska. They're ranked now. So I was like, because I'm like, if he didn't even work out, then he really hasn't figured out what he wants to get at quarterback at Florida State. Because the kid that ended up going to West Virginia that came out here with his family, that Nico Marchio,
right.
He's at West Virginia not doing anything. Tate's doing okay at Southern Miss, but we don't know what Brock or Luke's going to be either. But Luke Altmaier apparently maybe in year 5 finally figured it out. So maybe Brock Glenn, we should be really patient with Brock. Maybe year 5.
So Altmaier is the starter at Illinois?
Yeah, he's starting quarterback.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, cool. Good for him.
All right, where were we? Let's go to our guy in Naples, M. Adam CZ. Question, seriously, how do you guys manage to come up with daily content covering this program? New daily content. I imagine it was somewhat easier after the 0-4 start in 2021 as Mike's future was on the line and legitimately interesting to understand how he could start 3-10 as a head coach. But Corey fixed that in a jiff after the Louisville game. Maybe you're up for it again, Corey, at Monday's presser if we lose the Cal. A 0-3 start after winning 19 games, not even laughable or interesting. It's literally a riddle wrapped in a mystery inside of an enigma. So kudos for continuing to cover it every day.
Hey, thanks, Mark. We appreciate it.
You and Ira are like writing stuff. Like me, video-wise, I don't know, like the podcast, I can just kind of tee up Corey on a couple thoughts and, that'll get us through a day. But like to write stuff based off like these interviews that we get, which, listen, we're asking the question, so we kind of dictate, what we're going to get back. But a lot of times Mike's like, not playing that game. This is what you're going to get. But yeah, man, pat yourself on the back. Good job.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks. Yeah. I mean, again, it's still interesting. It's still sports. It's still a football season off the rails. That's always interesting. What you wonder about. So I was talking to some friends at Trivia at Corner Pocket the other night. They're like, so you told me that it's good for business when they're really good. And it's also good for business when they're really bad. And I'm like, well, hold on. I was like, it's good initially when they're bad. We do get a lot of views because people want to know what's going on, what's wrong, what can this get better. But eventually it will turn into apathy. And the numbers start going down, the clicks start going down, the views start going down because it's like, oh, yeah, they lost again. What are they going to talk about? You're going to keep trying to explain the same stuff. They don't have good offense. They can't run the ball. It's like that will get old quick. In fact, this weekend, it'll be old to keep talking about it again if it happens again. So it's so the point being, it does get it. People are still interested in Florida State, but it will wane a little bit if they continue to be bad. Like if they're this bad, it will turn in. It's disgust and shock right now. It will turn into apathy, and people will be like, whatever. I mean, I'll watch the game, but who cares? I'm certainly not gonna. That's why we want them all to be good, because good lasts. Being bad, there's a spike, and then it turns into apathy, and we lived that in. I mean, at least with Willie, his second year, there was he got fired, so that was interesting. And that's why I think that's to Mark's point. Is like we all know Norvell's not on the hot seat.
Yeah.
We all know he's not being fired. So there's not. It's not like we're gonna have a hot board for potential coaches. Now there could be a hot board for potential assistant coaches.
Yeah,
that'll be coming in late November and December. You would think if this keeps up, and a hot board for transfer portal kids. So that'll make it interesting again. But we all got to just. We all got to persevere and just ride through this season together.
Winkles, wake up. Hypothetical, 2-10, maybe 3-9. But 2 of those wins come against Florida and Miami. That's still good, right? Do we even care? I don't care about the season anymore. At least the Saints are good. What bandwagon are you jumping on for college football? He's picking Kansas State.
I'm Nebraska.
Okay. I'm riding with Big Link and the Trojans. Hopefully they're back doing things. Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. I don't know. I like that program as like a kid. I just like the program.
Oh, okay.
Like
all right. Well, that's fair.
The cheerleaders.
With the sweaters.
That's right. Yeah. His name
By the way, we're talking about the cheerleaders from the 90s.
Yes.
We're not creepy old men talking about the
no.
cheerleaders from
Correct.
2024. We're going back into the recesses of our brain for the USC when John Robinson was the coach.
That's right.
And Carson Palmer was the quarterback
That's
there.
Right. That's right.
We're not thinking about who's the quarterback there now?
Miller Moss.
We're not thinking about the cheerleaders that are cheering for Miller Moss. That's gross.
Yeah. Traveler the horse, the whole
Okay.
fight song, everything. Yeah, I liked it. So I liked Southern. I wanted to go. Los Angeles was cool to me. I know, whatever. People don't like Los Angeles, but I thought as a kid growing up, Los Angeles sounds pretty cool.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That would be nuts. That'd be kind of cool, right? Like you put
Well, if
the
you
dagger
go
in
2-10
Florida, and then you derail Miami's playoff hopes, maybe.
If you go 2-10 but beat Miami and Florida, well, that means you lost to Charleston Southern.
Well, he said maybe 3-9. So
Well, let's go 3-9 and you win both those games. Yes, I would say, I would guess that I would say not everybody, the majority of people listening to me talk right now would take a 3-9 season. Right now, they would sign up for a 3-9 season if it meant Florida and Miami were two of the wins.
Yeah.
They would rather have a 3-9 season than a 7-5 season where you lose to both of them.
What about 3-9 Florida, Miami, Notre Dame versus 3-9 Florida, Miami, Charleston Southern? Like, would losing to Charleston Southern, would the indignity of that hurt anything else?
Not if you then followed up by beating Florida, because then Florida lost to a team that lost to Charleston Southern, so you get the last laugh on that.
There we go. All right.
Like, you're not even as good as Charleston Southern. Charleston Southern, those kids can play. That's what you'd be saying. They're better than you guys. That was a lot tougher game. So, no, I would think that there's a lot of indignity with that, but if you could, that would be really hard. Maybe we take the week off. It's Thanksgiving anyway, I think, after Charleston Southern.
Correct.
If they lost to Charleston Southern to fall to 2-9, I wouldn't want to do the show that week.
It's crazy. We were thinking, embracing for the same stuff 3 years ago, and then they totally flipped the script.
Yep.
So,
What was the difference, though, Aslan, in that team?
Jordan Travis.
Yeah.
Jordan Travis. Yeah. But hey, the crazy thing is they go out and beat Cal.
Hey, don't give them a little hope, guys.
I'm saying.
Hey, they could run off some wins. I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
They jump from the cellar to the middle of the pack in the ACC, and then who knows what happens from there, man. Then you got a eminently winnable game, I think, against SMU. We'll see how they look with their new quarterback this coming weekend.
Right.
I don't know exactly. I think are they playing TCU? I think they might be playing TCU this weekend.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
Again, man, this schedule was so favorable. Like that's a emotional game. I mean, it's not the Iron Bowl, but it's a big deal in Texas, SMU, TCU, and you get them coming off that game. And anyhow, Whack 169. Hey guys, quick hitters again. He's got 4 of them, and then when that's
let's answer them one at a time.
Okay, all right. Corey doesn't want to leave early today, but he wants to stay late on a Friday.
Well, if we're going to answer for all 4 of them anyway, let's make them quick hitters, but let's just do them rapid fire.
Okay. Is Marvin Jr. asked to pursue other options after this season?
No.
Right.
But it'd be nice to watch him make some plays.
Yes. I'll ask again. Over under coaching changes 3.5.
Under.
From watching,
if you change the number, my answer will change.
Was it 4.5 last week?
No, I think it's still 3.5.
It's 3.5.
I'm still saying under. If he changes it down a number like 1, if he goes down by 1, I think I would say over.
It just feels like I don't think Thompson leaves. I don't think Surtain could leave, but that would be his own choosing. I don't think he'd be asked to leave. Like he wouldn't be asked to leave. Odell, I can't see would be asked to leave. I don't think Thompson would be asked to leave. But I think anybody else it's fair game, man. That's what,
it's
7
all
other
on the
guys,
table.
and then
It's all on the table.
From watching practices, is there any hope anywhere on the roster at any position? Quarterback, man. Brock Glenn turned a -6 yard play into a play of 5 yard gain. So
He then threw like a ball that right at a defender in the middle of the field. It wasn't great, but hey, he can move. I do think the young wide receivers are pretty good, are going to be good. I think Mekhi Danzy and Cam Davis are going to be a handful when they get older. I really do. Fair. I think those guys are playmakers, like legit, like changed the scoreboard playmakers. I would say my hope for this team moving forward is Landon Thomas, Amari Williams, Elijah Moore, LaWayne McCoy, Mekhi Danzy, Cam Davis. I think all those guys are playmakers that by the time they're 20 to 21 years old, that'll be a quintet. Is that what 6 are? Sextet? What's it?
Yeah, sextet.
Sextet. That'll be a sextet of playmakers. If they're all here, that you can build an offense around and score some points. Right now, they're just clearly they don't think they're ready. Cam Davis, they think they're ready, but Cam Davis is a freshman. That's still not quite sure what he's doing all the time. Hasn't hit any big runs yet, but you see how physical he is. He's just going to get stronger and faster and better and bigger. And then Danzy's just got freakish speed, and I think he's going to be a contributor, maybe, hopefully, starting here very soon. Not by next year, but maybe by the end of this year he'll be a contributor. But, yeah, I'd say those 6 guys are something to build around.
Super reactionary response, and it was the generating discussion.
What about you, Aslan? He's asking you too.
Oh, that's what I'm saying. Last week on generating discussion, I talked about it feels like at this point of the season, the biggest development the biggest storyline is Brock versus Luke pushing each other, and one of them emerging as your quarterback of the future, so that stabilizes the position and opens up resources to help out on other pieces, if you will. But, man, if Trevor Jackson can keep looking good and getting comfortable, and again, he's a walk-on, but he's not a walk-on. But he's a different class he's in a different class than Luke and Brock right now. He's not wearing a green jersey. He's in a black jersey most of the week. But, man, again, if we come back to this whole, you need to be dynamic, you need to have a dual threat, you need to be somewhat Jordan Travis-esque. He's got the tools more than those other 2 guys do, but he's maybe doesn't see things as good as they do. I don't know, but that'd be an interesting thing to see if at some point maybe he stops wearing black and puts on green, and then you're like, all right, well, maybe if this kid can make a jump. I mean, kids make jumps all across the country everywhere. It's time for somebody here in a really important position that's been brought from high school to do it, and maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing if it was him. So, and last one from him, over-under on underclassmen leaving in the portal at end of year, 30 over-under. Ooh.
Well, I would say under that.
Yeah, that's a huge number.
Yeah, that's too big a number. But I definitely think it'll be double digits. It's been double digits every year, and I feel like it'll be more this year because the way the season's going to probably play out. So yeah, I'd say 15 is a real strong number, like 14.5.
Yeah,
I think that's one that could get action both ways. People think it'll be more than that. People think it'd be under that. I think 30 is just a little too much.
Yeah, I'm trying to see here. Let's look at 24s last year. Pull that up. Transfers out. Will that give me the number? Does not give me a raw number, but I mean 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, they were over 20 transferring out last year for whatever.
There were scholarship players?
Yeah, I mean Marquiston, AJ Duffy, Bless Harris, Daughtry Richardson, Rodney Hill, Tafasi, Quayshawn Sapp, Malcolm Ray, Tate, Goldie, Gilbert Edmond, Dennis Briggs, Greedy Vance, Vandravius, Joshua Burrell. There's more.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, then maybe 18.5, 19.5 is a better number.
Okay. Man, we went like 2 days without dodging this one. I didn't want to answer it, but it's in the question. Not a quick hitter, but can anyone, all caps, that works for Warchant, talk to the athletic director and ask him what is going on or what the hell is going on with this staying in the ACC crap. I've said it. I've said here many times that cannot happen. It just cannot happen. If FSU stays in the ACC till 2030, the football program will be even worse than it is now and basically dead. We cannot stay in the ACC for another 6 years.
Well, just know, for those that don't know, and I think most of you do, about the reports. They're preliminary reports. They're not close to happening yet. We don't even know how far the negotiations have gotten to that. We don't know who started the negotiations, but the rumors were that Florida State and Clemson would get a higher percentage of the TV rights if they stayed until, and they would stay
TV revenue
if the TV revenue if the ACC cut the grant of rights to 2030. That they would drop the lawsuit, they would stay in the conference if they could get more money and cut the grant of rights by 6 years.
Gives you 5 years to get your ducks in a row, things like that.
And it gets you more money, but those are very preliminary. It's hard to imagine that they should, but it's hard to imagine the schools in the ACC would perhaps agree to that. Like, yeah, we'll give them more money. Sure. Although they should all be thanking Florida State and Clemson for the deals they do get. But they don't. That's not how they look at it. Certainly not how the North Carolina media looks at it. But, Florida State and Clemson are the reason they get what they get now.
Shouldn't Boston College and Syracuse be looking at this like we don't want to be the Pac-2, like we don't want to be whatever the Pac-12 is trying to become again? Because if this thing falls apart, like, yeah, we've got a really good setup right now, but if we lose it, it's not worth giving up 20% to lose, if to stand pat and then eventually lose 100%.
But if you're the ACC, it's like if you're one of those schools, you're like, yeah, okay, then what happens in 2030? Then we disband?
Well, that gives everybody 5 years. Yeah, it gives everybody 5 years to figure things out.
5 years to kind of get it figured out. Yeah, maybe. It just we'll see. We'll see. I still don't. I would not think that Florida State's first hope and wish at all is to stay in the ACC for the next 6 years. But that's also when the new Big Ten deal is done. If that means anything to anyone, and if you left the ACC in 2027 but couldn't get in the Big Ten until 2030, well, what point is that? What's the point of that? So yeah, there's that's why there's a lot of lawyers working on this a lot and a lot of billable hours, and we'll see where it goes. I'm not smart enough to have any idea because it's unprecedented. We can all sit here and predict what's going to happen. We can all say, and I've been on shows where people have said they'll definitely be gone by 2026. They'll definitely be somewhere else by 2027. Nobody knows. Yeah. It's all opinion because this has never really happened in sports before. There have been teams that have left conferences. Obviously, it's happened a bunch in the last 10 years, but not with an agreement that was still 12 years. They weren't breaking a 12-year contract. So that's why we just have no idea where this is going to go. So we shall see. I will say this is certainly not ideal to stay in the ACC until 2030, but if you get an agreement that you can be out by 2030, and they are going to pay you more money, you're not going to be getting SEC money, but you're not going to be getting Boston College money either. And you can be at least somewhat competitive or more competitive with the teams you're trying to beat and win national championships against. That's not the end of the world. And then you could join the Big Ten in 5 years instead of 2 years. And you get to stay in the ACC and you get to go to Snuggy Hill one more time.
That's right. Pete Tingler, 81, wake up. All right, I'm not going to pick on DJ. As Nole Nation knows, the roster needs major upgrades. In regards to rosters, On3's new 5-star rankings, out of the 28 committed, the schools that had the most were Texas, Ohio State, Oregon, and Alabama. All Big Ten and SEC schools. We have one new 5-star in Solomon Thomas. Do we still need to get out of the ACC because of the perception of the conference, even if we work out this potential new revenue deal reported earlier this week?
It's a fair question because that is another concern that's becoming, I think, pretty clear is that, look, man, if you're a college football fan, if you're an 18-year-old kid that's, let's say 17, you're a junior in high school, you've been a college football fan for the last 5 years, 6 years, you would probably rather go play in the SEC because that's like the NFL light. They're talked about the most. They're on TV the most. Those guys are the biggest stars. And so, yeah, I think league credibility and league, respect matters a lot. And when the Big Ten and the SEC are dominating the airwaves for the most part, it can make you want to go play in that conference. It's like do I want to go play in the NFL or the XFL? And now, obviously, it's not that big a gap. And I'm not going to sit here and say the ACC is the XFL. I'm just saying in their minds, they might be, I could be playing in a Tennessee-Alabama game this week, or I could be playing Florida State and Boston College, or I could, Florida State Wake, other than Florida State Clemson, Florida State Miami. There just aren't any games in the ACC that are anything like the current construct of the SEC. Yeah, and I do think that can matter to kids, right? Don't you, Aslan? That the prestige of the conference, yes, the prestige of the games will matters more now than ever because there's never been in the history of college football a time where two conferences have dominated so much of the landscape.
Yeah, man, getting a player out of Louisiana, Mississippi, or Alabama to come to Florida State should not be this difficult. But a large part of it is because you do play in this conference. And they are growing up, their dads, their moms, their uncles, aunts, everybody in school has a favorite SEC team. That's all they talk about is the SEC, and it's looked upon as taking it. Like Cam Akers coming to Florida State wasn't that big of a jump because like Jimbo was still looked upon as being like a really bright offensive mind. Florida State was a really strong brand.
And he was in Mississippi, which didn't have like certainly a history of great success with their college football programs.
Right. And like Mississippi State and Ole Miss, that was like 3 years after they kind of peaked and had their magical 2014. They'd kind of both come down to earth. Ole Miss didn't run the ball at all with Hugh Freeze. Mississippi State with Dan Mullen, he's just a weird guy to play for. But yeah, man, it's tough to get those guys, and that's why you lose the Keldrick Falks to go to Auburn. Man, there was that really good. They had a really good Charles Cross, I think, was an offensive lineman that had barely any offers. Florida State, Greg Fry actually had him on the hook. And then when he got fired, they lose him. He goes to Mississippi State. I think he was a first-round pick of the Seahawks 2 or 3 years ago. Man, there's good talent in that state, and it's so hard to pull it out when you don't play in the SEC. And the crazy thing is, like playing at Missouri is like, oh, that will be in the SEC. Like, that's more appealing, which is just bizarre. But that's
which is crazy.
Yeah.
But that's they're going to be getting more money, and they're Missouri's not on par with Florida State, obviously, but yeah, their league is. And you could be like, okay, I could go play at Missouri, and we could be a top 15 team, and I get to go play Tennessee 1 week, Florida the next week, then Georgia, and I can go star against these teams, and I could be the talk of the country. And it just, the ACC doesn't, for reasons, Florida State certainly isn't helping this year with what they've done to start the season, but the ACC isn't viewed upon nearly the same way the SEC is, and there's a reality to that, is it's not as good. I mean, they just added Texas and Oklahoma. And Big Ten, I mean, you know what I mean? Like, they just added Arch Manning. There's a team in the flipping SEC where a Manning is the second-string quarterback because the other guy's even the Heisman front-runner. Like, that's what you're competing against. Like, we can sit here because we've all grown up with Florida State. You guys love Florida State. You love the tradition. We all understand the tradition and the history of it and why it should be appealing. But it is 2024. And if you were a kid right now in Texas – are you going to Florida State? Dalen
McCutcheon is, Corey.
Right, it's not realistic that you think you're going to get the biggest and baddest from Alabama, Louisiana, and Texas or Georgia traditionally or consistently to come to Florida State right now, the way the landscape currently is. But we all know that Alabama and Georgia can come into Florida and go get the big boys. But Florida State, even Florida, but mainly Florida State and Miami, they're not going out of state to those states and landing like 5-star super-duper guys. It's just not in the cards right now. Still, Mike, recruit better. Legitimately. That sounds like I'm giving them a pass. I'm not. You need to go one way or the other, man. Bring in some kids. Bring in some guys on the line that can play.
Famous man once said, actually might have been a woman, but that abs are made in the kitchen. So all that working out that we do, Corey and myself, you still got to eat right. And usually that means eating at home, but man, that's so annoying, right? Like all the dishes, having to go to the grocery store, measuring everything out. That's why you should check out HelloFresh. We used to do this a few years ago. Remember everybody, HelloFresh? Go to HelloFresh.com/free warchant for an offer for 10 free meals, free shipping, and free breakfast for life? ? But this stuff was great. There's literally recipes that they sent me 2-3 years ago that I still use at home, but it doesn't quite hit the same. Some of these spices they use are proprietary, and people on the internet try to match it, but they fall short of the glory of HelloFresh. But these meals show up like properly packed in dry ice. Everything is pretty much proportioned out, so like it helps out with the entire measuring and like utensil usage. Like everything's pretty much ready to go. You just either throw it in the pan, throw it in a bowl, and it lessens the load because like I don't really mind cooking at home. I just hate doing dishes. I found out HelloFresh gave me delicious meals and also lessened the dishwashing aspect component because I don't have anybody to help me out with that stuff. So womp womp for Aslan. Check out HelloFresh. Again, HelloFresh.com/free warchant for an awesome introductory offer. All right, home stretch. Let's get through the rest of these. Marlon Joker, when will this team quit or have they quit already? Not even close, man. They're still
they
playing
haven't quit
hard,
yet.
Man.
Yeah, the defense played, I thought, hard for the most part. Not every snap, but for the most part, they played hard. It's easy to look like you're not. It can be easy to look like you're not trying when the offense is gross. The offense is trying a lot. I think the defense played as hard and as good as it has and as well as it has all season on Saturday. Now, look, if it's 42-7 in the third quarter on Saturday, they've quit. They've quit. So that's when we'll know.
Naked_Noel, when the offseason rolls around and coaching changes potentially occur, do you think we continue to pay large salaries
to assistant coaches. Now, on the surface, Corey, this seems like a silly question almost. Like, of course, like you cannot fire your $2 million defensive coordinator and cut a corner and pay somebody $800,000 to then be your defensive coordinator. But I think this is where the whole talent acquisition versus coaching equation is kind of laid bare. Yeah?
Yeah, and also, I was about to look it up right now. I was going to look up how much the Boston College offensive line coach is getting paid.
I'll look it up. I'll try to find it.
I'm looking it up.
Oh, okay.
You keep talking.
Yeah, I'm kind of tilting towards Corey's thoughts. Like, look for a good G5 coach, which I guess kind of that is Alex Atkins' mold if you really think about it. I mean, he was at Charlotte. If there's somehow that works out, like financially, if that's kosher on the books to where like money that you would go and pay towards coaches can then be, diverted to acquiring a player, probably doing that. Because think about it, I mean, if you can save $1 million on that hire, I'm not saying use that $1 million to get a game-changing quarterback, but man, $1 million probably gets you at least 3 impact players, right? For one, I know that's just for one season, but listen, you got to pay that coach $2 million every single year. So why not spend, 1.1 on 3 different dudes and not have to ever worry about staring at 0-4 ever again? My opinion.
I think Boston College is a private school, so they don't have to report. That's a bummer. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and guess that Matt Applebaum, who's the O-line coach at Boston College, does not make what Alex Atkins makes. And yes, to my point,
$350 for Georgia Tech, if that matters. Sorry, Corey.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, and Alex Atkins makes what, $1 million, 1.2,
something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. So, and again, not advocating for anybody's firing, just giving you some data points. But you'd have to pay off the buyout. So you're going to be losing money when you fire these coaches, you're going to be losing some money. So you better go. You can't just. You can say, okay, I'm gonna take the money. I'm gonna save money because instead of paying Alex Atkins, $1.1 million, I'm gonna pay this guy $450,000. So okay, that saves us $600,000. Well, sort of, but you've lost a year because you got to pay the Atkins what you owe him. But the point being, yes, I think that there's 2 ways to do it. That's one is to get younger coaches that would walk to Florida State to coach. They're going to be talented. There's a lot of talented coaches all over this country, and pay them, a fine salary, but not. You don't have to pay that. You don't have to make them one of the top 10 highest paid coaching staffs in the country. You can have maybe a top 40 highest paid coaching staff in the country, and then have one of the top 5 highest paid rosters. Maybe that's how it would work, because I can promise you, the highest paid roster will matter more than the highest paid coaching staff. Because if you don't have players, it doesn't matter, in my opinion. But I could be wrong.
So everyone talks about Jeremy Pruitt being a high school coach before he came to Florida State. But I mean, he did have 3 years of seasoning at Alabama as an on-field coach. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. You've got connections to Texas, Mike Norvell. There's always good coaches in Texas that end up being like really good position coaches somewhere. Find out like the best guy in high school that's been developing a bunch of good offensive linemen. Maybe bring him in. Love Alex. Not saying Alex were to leave, but I think, I don't know. Are we in agreement, Corey? Like we would like to see, I think, that tact, but I don't know if that really would happen. It would be cool though.
Yeah,
right?
It'd be great, but it's a hard sell. It's like, okay, so Mike Norvell goes and hires like the Texas State defensive coordinator. It's like, oh, all right, man, but has he ever recruited against Alabama? Is he going to bring in the players? That's going to be a hard sell. You're going to want somebody that has a history of success at a high level. I just don't know how realistic that is. Again, in the current landscape.
That's why you announce. You tell those 2 kids, those 3 high school kids that you just gave $425,000 to a pop. All right, on January 4th, you're committing. January 5th, you're going to tweet. January 6th, you're going to tweet. And then on January 7th, we're going to announce the new hire or whatever. So,
hey, there you go. Hey, I'm all for it, Aslan. Let's try something. I will say this, and again, I'm absolutely not advocating for Adam Fuller to leave or go somewhere else. Right. But the Colorado defensive coordinator's been pretty impressive so far. That is a completely different looking unit than the one that played. They're tougher. They're more physical. They only gave up 20 points at Nebraska. They beat Colorado State because of the defense. Maybe that guy's the real deal. Maybe you can steal him from Dion. But again, I don't want that because I like Adam Fuller. So what am I even talking about?
Yeah, what happens when you lose Travis Hunter? What are you going to look like then, huh?
Well, yeah, true.
Robert Livingston, not to be confused with founding father Robert Livingston, but that's the apparently the defensive coordinator right now for Colorado. Keeping it in this realm, North Alabama, Noel, is it time to really start looking at how Florida State prioritizes NIL? If you look at other schools that actually put forth the money for these high school kids, they are having success. No one knows if KJ Bolden, Jeremiah Smith, or Cam Ward would have come here if FSU and the Battle's End did give them what they wanted. But it has been made very clear before that Florida State and the Battle's End have decided in the past to not give the money even if they could afford it. I don't think that's true.
No, I don't think that's clear because they've given players a lot of money. You know, they got Keon Coleman last year.
I don't think they shortchanged Jeremiah. I mean, maybe you can say Cam Ward. I don't know, but I don't know about KJ Bull and Jeremiah Smith. I don't know if they got outbid as much as like KJ Bull might have been playing the game and got matched the dollars closer. But yeah, Jeremiah Smith, I feel like
close.
Yeah, Ohio State. Listen, $20 million salary. I find it hard to believe that Florida State, played it cheap on him because that was a piece that they were all in on, like till the absolute last minute. So, they could afford things and they went for it. But
yeah, but I think there obviously were some bad evaluations and there was some money poorly spent, but that does happen. That's why you've just got to be better at that. They kind of changed their tact a little bit, Aslan. Like when you think of all the high level transfers they brought in for a lot of different reasons, but other than like Trey Benson and Johnny Wilson, who were backups at big schools, Jared Verse was a star where he was at. It was at Albany, but he was a star. Braden Fisk was a star at Western Michigan. Jamie Robinson, Keir Thomas, they were starters at South Carolina. Mm-hmm. Keon Coleman was a starter at Michigan State. Dylan Gibbons was not a starter at Notre Dame, but was at Notre Dame. But Byers, these guys that they brought in had all played this year. Other than Lola Hea, kind of everybody they brought in was a backup at a big school. Yeah. Earl Little was a backup. Sean Murphy was a backup. Cam Riley was kind of a backup at Auburn. He had played and started some, but last year he was a backup. Malik Benson played, didn't do much. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Roydell, Grady Kelly.
Yeah, all these guys were kind of backups or kind of role players. They brought in role players and hoped to expand their role like they did with Jermaine Johnson. But maybe Jermaine Johnson was the unicorn. There aren't many guys that, Marvin Jones is not Jermaine Johnson. Similar stories, backup defensive ends at Georgia on great teams. But, Jermaine Johnson was the real deal. Marvin Jones has not proven to be yet. So maybe they just changed their tact. Because, man, Malik Benson might end up being a good player, and he had a solid game on Saturday. He might turn into something, but it's like, man, I think I'd rather go after the guy that had 95 catches at Texas State than a guy that had 13 catches at Alabama. Yeah, he played the whole season.
He's only got 1 year out of him too, right? I think Malik Benson, they only get 1 year from him. So
yeah,
and Grady Kelly, bad example. Sorry, Grady Kelly started every game last year, so I apologize.
But there will be freshmen out there all over the country that are very, very good. Let's say receiver. They're very, very good. They have 61 catches for 870 yards. I just want a guy that's used to making plays in games. I want a guy that there's film on. Not practice film, but film on. Maybe that's what because there was on Verse, there was on Fisk, there was on Jamie and Kier. Those are the guys that have helped the most, and Keon. Those guys that actually participated and played in games and helped their teams win games. And maybe that's what you go back to is instead of, man, Nick Saban just left. We can go get 3 or 4 guys from Alabama. Well, are any of them good? Yeah. Don't know. So let's maybe not do that again. Maybe save money for guys that have proven it on the football field, even if you have to go to smaller schools to do it.
Yeah, LeJontay Wester was a guy that was in the portal from FAU. He had 108 catches last year for 1,160 yards and 8 scores. He ended up going to Colorado. He's got 14 catches for 158 and 3 scores so far. So,
yeah. They got a better quarterback than Florida State does, and but still, it'd be nice to have guys like that.
All right, last one. Tony G from DB. Wake up. First time posting from Daytona Beach, home of the great Seabass, Buster Davis, and Vince Carter.
Yeah.
Why does it seem that Mike is so set to run DJ out there over and over? Is it him trying to prove he's a quarterback whisperer, or just prove he was right to portal over Brock?
Again, we'll see. Let's not like he's been incredibly stubborn. The Georgia Tech game, you could rightly say, wasn't DJ's fault, all of it anyway. The Boston College game was horrific in the second half, and then he also, or the first half, but he also had a lot of drops, and he did play better in the second half. And you're like, okay, that's something to build on. And then in the first half of the Cal game, you're like, well, that's disgusting again.
Memphis.
Golly, sorry, buddy.
Okay.
Thank you. Memphis, that's disgusting again. But he had I think both those drops were in the second half, maybe the Keziah drop and the Williamson drop. I think were in the second half. But again, he might be saying, I'm not helping him out because the we can't block on the perimeter. We can't block at all. It's not fair to DJ. Let's give it one more shot. And then, of course, the first play of the second half is a 60-something yard catch, and then you score 2 plays later, and you're like, okay, well, I can't take him out now. There might have been a chance that Norvell was like, I'm giving you one more. He would never tell us this, publicly anyway, on the record. He might have told DJ and Brock, hey, I'm giving DJ one more chance. This is your last drive. If nothing happens, I got to make a change. And then DJ throws a 67-yard pass on the first play, and they score 3 plays later. So you're not taking him out after that. And then he had another drive after that went on for a day and a half, but they kept getting first downs.
Right, they had 3 straight scoring drives.
2. But, no, did they have a scoring drive to end the first half? So that would be 3.
They got the field goal because Memphis went for it on
That's
fourth
right.
down.
Yeah, so
midfield,
but 3 straight scoring drives, and it's like, well, when would you take them out now? So again, I think that you go into this game probably saying you can't have another first half where you get 67 yards. I don't care if DJ makes every correct read and just you can't block Cal and he gets obliterated and it's not his fault. I don't care. You can't keep doing it. But I think this is kind of the line in the sand game. It probably should have been halftime against Memphis. But again, like I said, DJ wasn't horrible in the second half against Memphis. But now it's got to be the time where if it's still the same old slop through 3 drives where every first down is just like a dentist trip. It's just a grind and a gruel, and you just kind of want to get some Novocaine and go to sleep. You've got to make a change. So if he plays him for 4 quarters on Saturday, and they again score 1 or 2 touchdowns and lose again, then man, there's going to be some real questions about what in the world is he doing? Like what is he getting paid to do? But let's see what it looks like for the first part of Saturday's game before we decide. He's being incredibly stubborn.
By the way, for the record, everybody, Corey picked Florida State to win on the Warchant report. I did not.
Right.
And you'd figure the roles were reversed on this. I can't wait to get back at it with them having a win in ACC play and just thinking about all the great things that have been unlocked and what the future holds for us.
Okay, great. I like that.
It's going to be awesome.
Okay.
Jeff Cameron Show 1 to 4 o'clock. And then he'll be over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill with Corey Clark and myself from 5 to 6 o'clock. Come hang out. There'll be a pregame show at 9 a.m. on Warchant TV, as well as I think 93.3 FM.
Why would it be at 9 a.m. for a 7 p.m. game?
That's how they roll, man. That's how they roll.
All right, good for them.
Then there will be a meet and greet on Saturday before the game from 4 to 6 o'clock at Hotel Indigo. That is located in College Town, which is in the shadow of Doak Campbell Stadium. And there'll be a live postgame show with Gene Williams and Tom Lang 10 to 15 minutes after what we hope is the first dub of the year for the Noles. And obviously, the Vitamin Energy Warchant wrap will be up on YouTube, as well as the podcast feed where you get headlines maybe 2 hours after that one. That takes a little bit longer for your guy. All right, I can't do 10, 15 minutes after the game. It's not how it works. Right. But we'll have all that for you over at warchant.com. So stay connected. Get involved in the over-under contest. That's on the Tribal Council pinned to the top.
Am I going to do champagne, Aslan?
Oh. Yeah. No, man.
Why?
I don't know. If you want to, sure, go for it. Just don't pour it on Ira. Like you keep talking about pouring stuff on Ira. You poured it on yourself last time. Yeah, don't get Ira involved in this sticky mess.
I feel like we all are a part of this, though. You know what I mean? Like we're all a part of this. We got to all be it. It's ride or die time with all of us. But maybe not champagne. Maybe another alcoholic beverage. Like literally, I'm thinking like Natty Ice or
Funnel and Neo.
Yeah, or Funnel wouldn't be bad, or just a couple of tall boys or something. A Budweiser tall boy. Just something.
Go
something
Stone
to.
Cold. What about Stone Cold? You just
smash 2 cans and then just throw them down your gullet, but 80% just runs down your face.
Yeah, I can do that. Sure.
Okay.
Sure. Shirtless. Remember.
Ooh, all right.
Shirtless.
I like it.
Yeah.
Up in the air.
I want to be sticky.
Stephanie just living life, living the dream.
Stephanie ain't listening to this.
All right, we're done. Thanks for listening, everybody. Stay connected to warchant.com. He's Corey Maslon. Thank you for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.